Hello, welcome to 8.9 News. I'm Costain. Andrew Whiteford of Ulzieside Farm near Sanquhar is inviting farmers and land managers to his farm to see how planting trees has boosted his business. I spoke to Andrew and I asked him why farmers should grow more trees.
Well, I mean, I can only really talk about our specific farm, but it's allowed us to utilize land that might be lower productive for agricultural value within our whole farm business, and able for us to get an extra form of income from that hectareage, that we might not have already been able to do from just sheep or cattle. And it's also a sort of form of income that's separate to the ups and downs of the agricultural markets. That could provide potential some consistency in planning for the future. If we know there's going to be a pot of, capital or income from that, a lot more static than what might be from just the trade markets of selling, for us, selling beef or selling lamb, and the commodity prices of fertilizer and grain.
Do you think that having trees will benefit your livestock?
Specifically in the short term, the way that we've done it, and I'll touch on to the grants that were available, but the new plantation that we put in, we're able to put road infrastructure, new fencing up. So the immediate effect of that is we've got new fencing. That one of them specifically, it allows us to put a clean electric line, allowing us to carry electric, the scare fencing further up the hill. And the road infrastructure has meant we'll be able to manage the cattle, again, maintain upland areas of the farm, new fencing for other areas. Just generally speed in terms of being able to manage, being able to gather the hills. It's made that quite useful for us. And in the then next period of time, it will start to grow, maybe in the next 10, 15, 20 years, be able to provide some shelter from that point of view. And then thereafter that, there's the income from the commercial value of it, which is the felling.
Do you intend that the tree foliage will become part of the diet for your cattle and sheep in due course?
No, so for us, it's fenced off. They won't actually be grazing in there at all. And I suppose because it's a commercial crop, we want it to grow as quickly as possible. We're not wanting any animals to actually potentially suppress that or suppress the establishment of it. It will probably help the biodiversity on the farm. There'll be other animals not related to the farm that might benefit from that, whether it's bird life, and shelter for those sorts of animals that can potentially benefit the whole environment around the farm.
Are you expecting positive impacts in terms of drainage and water cycling?
Specifically where we've planted it, there is a couple of fields around that will potentially allow us to drain those fields into it. And I guess those areas that would have had livestock on it no longer have, so there's no negative effect of animals poaching those water areas or polluting it. It's now free from animals using those drinking areas. So in terms of that, it's safeguarded that area from animal fecal matter and things like that. So there is in that area that we're talking about, yes. But on our farm, there's still lots of water courses and stuff, and obviously there's areas of our farm that the trees have been planted historically on the edge of riverbanks that potentially are helping stop that eroding, or are planted in areas where the drains will go to. So hopefully that'll help uptake water from those areas.
What sort of trees have you planted?
In our area, the 50 hectares that we planted, it's mainly Sitka spruce. So it was a conifer plantation, and although there is broadleafs within that, there's a small area of broadleafs, a small area of other diverse conifers, and areas of open land as well. The way trees are planted now is very different to what it was planted 30, 40 years ago, where it was just purely one crop, and you walk through these woodlands and you can't see anything apart from the trunks of the trees. I think the idea is that still an area that's meant to create biodiversity. It's not going to be taken out of um of the land completely, which is fair enough because actually we're allowed to still claim our subsidy on that land. So I guess it still has to provide some benefit for the land itself rather than just a pure monoculture crop.
How long do you think it'll take for you to feel the benefit from the new tree planting?
In terms of a paycheck, let's say, I mean, it all comes down to the establishment of it. There has been money, there's grant money available, like I said, for the roads, for the fencing, for the planting, and there's a maintenance grant. The more maintenance that's required, the more of that pot will have to be spent on it. So it's all about how well we timed it for planting, how well it's established, how well we can potentially stop deer and other animals nipping away at it and stopping it growing. If it's a good establishment, there probably could be a thinning process in year 15 to 20. So I suppose there would be income there, but whether that might just cancel out the extraction cost. And then yeah, depending on how well established and how quickly it grows, we're probably talking 30 to 40 years, depending on what it's used for. If we're wanting to use it for like high quality timber for construction, it needs to be a bit old, it needs to be a bit more mature. If it's just for biomass chipping, it can be a bit younger. And also it depends on how level the crop grows. There could be some that grow really well and they could be potentially 5 years ahead. So when it comes to felling, it's all about trying to judge the right time. So it's definitely a long-term investment. But we see it as a good way to put you put an investment aside and you're not tempted to cash it in because you can't. You're forced to stick it out, and then it'll probably be a succession planning thing for me in the future because I'll probably be 60 when this is ready to be felled. So there could be, depending on what the next generation is, there might be investment required for, new buildings or buying new land or various things. It's a good way to basically stop us from spending that money prematurely.
What are the funding streams and the income sources associated with agroforestry in Scotland?
So with us, there is like within the forestry grant scheme, ours was specifically like the sheep and trees, and you got paid so much per meter to put a road in, but that only you have to have a minimum of 10 hectares to put it in, and after 50 hectares, you don't get paid anymore. And there's funding available again for the fencing and maintenance of that. I would say the funding at the moment definitely does cover the costs, but whether going forward it's going to cover the costs with everything's getting more expensive, fencing is more expensive, fuel for laying these roads and rock and so those are what we found out at the time, the various ways in which we could draw money into the scheme from the grants that were available.
You're part of a series of farm tours organised by Forestry Scotland. What will you show other farmers when they visit?
Well, I'd like to show them the thought process we went through. I think the main point that I want to try and get across to people is that you need to know your farm first, know which areas of land work well for you, what don't for agriculture, but also be aware that trees don't just grow anywhere. You still have to give them a good area of land. You can't grow them on rock. You can't grow them on bits that the peat's too deep. So it's trying to understand your farm, working out what areas are paying well for agriculture, what areas aren't, but still might provide a good environment for growing trees. Making whatever scheme you're going to do work for you. And I'm going to go through the various processes that we went through, potential problems that we came up against, what we then did to remedy that, and various opportunities I took at the time to try and make the most of the project and the design of it, bearing in mind other plantations that we had on the farm and the whole forestry process as well. It's all about long-term planning, but you have to know your figures and what's going on immediately in the meantime to make that decision. So hopefully I can give them an example of what our farm is, and hopefully they can take that home with them and try and see where they see similarities with their own farms.
That was Andrew Whiteford from Ulzieside Farm. More news as ever on our website 8.9.com. That's all for now. We're back soon. Thanks for watching.